Dangerous Animals is the third film directed by Australian filmmaker Sean Byrne. Like his two previous films, The Loved Ones and The Devil's Candy, it's a horror movie. It follows the story of a young American woman traveling to Australia to surf and instead finding love in misery. The young woman Zephyr is played by Hasse Harrison, her love interest Moses is played by Josh Houston, and her kidnapper Tucker is played by Jai Courtney. Tucker, a serial killer who uses his boat to feed tourists to sharks and film it all on VHS tapes, is a unique killer for this type of horror movie and moves it away from your typical creature feature or killer shark movie. In this movie, it's not about playing on our fear of the bloodlust of a shark, but of a deranged human, a change in emphasis that is a refreshing and interesting subversion of the tropes of the subgenre. In an era of awareness of the overfishing of sharks to the tune of over 100 million deaths a year, as well as the disturbing imagery that comes out of the brutal practice of finning, a change like this is appreciated. This movie doesn't seek to fearmonger about sharks. This killer is purposely setting up these incidents in ways that would never happen organically. Byrne uses this change in emphasis to let the sharks stay underwater, a smart technique that builds suspense. Meanwhile, we continue to unravel each new layer of depravity that Tucker is capable of. This is awesome and feels in line with some of the smarter modern shark movies. Like Under Paris, it's clear that the filmmakers are aware of the shadow of Jaws as both an artistic achievement as well as a warning about societal effects. Eli Roth's documentary Fin also comes to mind, a film he made for Shark Week that discussed these ideas in graphic detail. It's interesting to see how so many extreme horror filmmakers of the 2000s, filmmakers who grew up idolizing Steven Spielberg's Jaws, now work against the negative stigma that the film helped foster for sharks. It's also interesting to see how these filmmakers, who were instrumental in truly bleak and brutal horror films, mature and evolve as they get older. Sean Byrne seems to fit this mold, and in many ways, this film speaks more to that film language than a schlocky shark movie. Tucker is like if Jigsaw was obsessed with sharks. The kills in the movie are unflinching, and we get extended moments of people chained up waiting for their turn with the sharks. What Byrne does with this is shift the emphasis again, moving towards character and romance as a basis for the core of the story, rather than dwelling in a bleak and brutal world. The movie starts with a dabble into dark humor, with an opening featuring a couple of tourists who, after getting ready by singing Baby Shark Doo-Doo, get to experience the beauty of sharks, and then one of them gets killed and fed to the sharks, and the other is kidnapped. The humor in this opening scene is something the film comes back to. It's constantly bringing both intense suspense and gory effects alongside effective dark humor. That scene where Tucker barks at the dog is so damn funny. The, at times, ridiculous characterization of Zephyr was funny as well. I'm not sure if that was intentional, but I dug it nonetheless. Her discussions of juvie, surfing, freedom, and her own personal ethics felt so cliched at times, but I still liked her and found her to be a fun character. She's set up well to be a truly kick-ass final girl. The effects look great throughout the movie, and the CGI is not distracting in its usage. To me, this was a beautiful film that gives us a steady stream of pretty shots. I thought Byrne was able to have a lot of fun with the material, and it bleeds onto the screen. I enjoyed myself for the whole runtime. Nothing feels over-padded or unnecessary. We just get this constant building of the tension or continuation of the action in ways that feel fresh. The direction is solid in this movie. Byrne juggles so many competing elements of the narrative and delivers the goods. I left the film feeling satisfied and wanting more. This is how you make a modern shark movie. I'm a fan of Under Paris as well. I think both of these films work so well in taking the kind of ridiculous concepts of a killer shark movie, which is usually played either too seriously or way too over the top, and striking a good balance. Of course, making the real evil of the movie, an Australian man who is a serial killer, helps tremendously in this regard, but this movie has such great balance. We have moments of serious character development, such as the scenes involving Zephyr with both Heather and Moses while they are locked in beds, juxtaposed with the silly dance sequences involving Tucker. We don't feel the relentless despair that a lot of the splatter films of the 2000s gave us. Instead, we get doses of that brutality in a world that refuses to dwell in a humorless void. I love the bleak and brutal style of those horror movies. There's a reason Bring Her Back is my favorite horror film of 2025 so far. However, it's nice to see a well-balanced horror film as well. This is not easy to pull off, but Dangerous Animals does so effortlessly. The acting is solid across the board. Hasse Harrison is an awesome final girl with emotional depth, a sense of humor, a relentless spirit, and believable physicality that sells her completely. Jai Courtney is positively unhinged as the serial killer, Tucker, and he bounces off everything that comes against him. His character is so full of himself and enamored with his own pseudo-philosophical ramblings, while at the same time, he is desperately paranoid and insecure. He truly feels like an evil man. The VHS tape recordings were a nice touch, and I loved that thrift store scene. Josh Houston does a commendable job as Moses, and his investigation thread was well executed. Ellen Newton nearly steals the show as Heather, and is a strong example of making the most of your smaller role. We care deeply about her character, and her death feels like a blow. The writing and acting do a great job in tandem, making us care about a character who is destined to die. I don't want you to leave this review with the impression I think this is a horror comedy film, because it definitely isn't. However, the doses of black humor in the film are so excellently pulled off, and some of the cliched writing works well within the context of the film. It all works to create this fun, psychological horror movie. That's definitely not a usual combination, and it rarely works well. But this film nails the terror and the horror in such a strong way that the other wackier elements cannot overwhelm them. This is a strong horror movie and another to add to the long line of successes within the Australian horror space, which continues to produce awesome movies. I'm so glad we live in an era with so many countries' horror industries pumping out consistently solid years. France had an awesome year last year, with stuff like Under Paris, Infested, The Substance, and others. Australia is having a great year now. Let's hope that this trend continues, and this only continues to show the value in a service like Shudder in bringing these gems to an American audience. To me, Dangerous Animals immediately becomes one of the best horror movies of the year. But let me know in the comments below what your thoughts of the film are. That's all for today's video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next week.